Okay. Hey, welcome back to another episode of our podcast, A Year of Magical Learning. Today we're on episode 66. Today is a great book, right, Chris?
Yeah, well, it's a good book that could be great.
Yes,
Have you read this one actually?
No, I have not. I've heard of it. I heard so many people talking about it and a lot of good reviews on it, but I'm a contrarian. I don't believe in the masses, so I held off reading it. I might be persuaded though.
Yeah, I'm torn on this book whether or not I would recommend it because there's a lot of people that
just like the hot thing about the hot thing about the hot
things about hard things
about so to me that book doesn't resonate with me, so I don't know about I mean, based on the title, it made me I may reserve that for later.
Yeah, it's a very, very well-known business book. I mean, it is a good book. The reason why I would be apprehensive of recommending this one is as time has gone by, this book for me gets less and less relevant in terms of its importance. However, for me personally, only because actually it's pretty funny. The concepts that are the biggest things that I remember out of this book are things that have nothing to do with business, right? I mean, this is about, for me, the reflection that we'll talk about today is I want to be a foxhog, which you're probably like, what the hell does that have to do with business? Because for me, it doesn't. Like the two concepts that I probably took out of this are I want to be a foxhog and the Stockdale paradox. That was when I first learned about the Stockdale paradox, which is, the idea of simultaneously somehow coexisting as an extreme optimist and an extreme realist at the same time.
It's a balance. You need a balance of the two.
Well, that's what you spoiled the whole reflection here. So the book, Good to Great, I'll go ahead and recommend it. It's a really good book. Jim Collins is a great author. I think they did a great job doing the study that they did. This goes back to like you and I, there is no patterns in randomness. A lot of the companies that they studied, they went from good to great with the criteria that they used, no longer fit that bill anymore. It's hard to, I think it's an impossible task is what they're trying to do, of finding that pattern that does make a company good to great. Now, there are some timeless qualities that he mentioned in the book that I do find really valuable. I think it can be a really helpful book for a lot of people to understand what are some of those ingredients that go into the pot to turn a company into a great company. But I don't know that there's some surefire blueprint that comes out of this or for any of these business books. I mean, because I think it all gets centered around the idea of finding that pattern in a random, who becomes successful and why kind of thing. It's just so random.
Right. But that's like hindsight, right? Because you don't know where something would pivot to until you see it. So to me, a lot of time when you make a universal claim to be, hey, from good to great, whatever, to me, that doesn't apply to everybody. I mean, if you say something isn't typical, like saying it's not a typical result, then it's not a system. Therefore, this means that, hey, anyone could become from good to great, or if you want to become a good to great,
right.
There's no guarantee that you could be if you follow these principle or map or plan or whatever.
Correct. Yeah, so that's kind of why I struggle with these kinds of books these days. I was entertained by the book. I learned a lot when I read it. I think some of the concepts around like level 5 leadership is, leaders who are humble but driven for what's best for the company. I think there's some concepts in here that are definitely a thinker that you learn from. But on the whole, it's something, like I said, I'm probably...
So what is a level 1 leadership?
I'd have to pull up...
What is a level 0 leadership? That's what I'm saying is it's arbitrarily you're saying that, hey, level 1, you are at this point, right?
Right.
Who makes that up? Somebody just arbitrarily decide that's a level.
The pyramid from good to great. It's level 1, it's a highly capable individual. Level 2 is contributing team member. Level 3 is a competent manager. Level 4 is an effective.
But none of them is a leader.
What's that?
None of them is a leader. You're a capable individual. Has nothing to do with leader.
This is it. It's like builds enduring greatness through a paradoxical blend of personal humility and professional will. Like that's a level 5 leader. This is a level 4. To me,
it sounds silly because they just take this out and say, hey, these are your mantra. It's like, I got this from God, and God tells me this is the pyramid, right? And so to me, that's why I tend to stay away from this book, because I just don't, there isn't any evidence that tells you, hey, this is the dogma. And the dogma works for everybody. If the dogma works for everybody, then yeah, you can say this is what we observed. But if it doesn't work for everybody and it's an atypical result, then this is a one-off. And therefore, I kind of would resist from kind of assimilating these concepts, because to me, it's not right for me.
Right. I mean, you can have whatever thought you want to have about the book. And to be honest with you, this whole journey isn't about reviewing books necessarily. It's about kind of what we learned from it anyway. So on to the lesson of what we learned, right? So I know that you and I, this is kind of near and dear to our hearts of, the whole, I want to be a foxhog, right? And you're like, what the hell is a foxhog? So there is this age-old philosopher dilemma of a debate between what's better, being a fox or a hedgehog. And there was this guy named Isaiah Berlin that had originally posed this thought exercise and and theorized which one was better. So the theory is, when you're a fox, you're cunning, you have range. You're not necessarily the best at anything, but you kind of do a lot of little things well. And then if you're a hedgehog, it is like you do one thing really, really well. You hedgehog. Like that is it. Like, when the fox comes, you hedgehog and you protect yourself. The fox, though, on the other hand, can kind of take in all the different, you get it, right? Like the fox is more versatile. The hedgehog does one thing. Is a synopsis of these two animals as examples, right? Well, immediately they already set it up as like a polarity of, you're either a fox or a hedgehog, right? Like you got to pick one who you got to pick. So yeah, it's funny because like in Good to Great, Jim Collins argues for the hedgehog concept. Like he literally has a whole part of his book called the hedgehog complex or the concept or whatever. Anyway, so he argues like companies, to go from good to great, need to really zone in on one thing and just go all in on that. If you ever want to get from good to great, it's align all the dots around this one hedgehog concept and isolate yourself from everything else and just hedgehog away, right? Like that's his argument in this book. Then I think back to other books that we've read on this journey already, and then we've already covered on our discussions of like range, right? I remember in Range, they talk about the fox and the hedgehog dilemma, and David Epstein argues the exact opposite. He's like, it's better to be a generalist. It's better to be the fox. It's better to have, your experience diversified in all different kind of areas and yada, yada, yada. So, you and I have gone through this debate time and time again about, so who's right? Is it a fox or is it a hedgehog? And for me, this whole journey, and for us, I know you as well, is this is all about balance. It's about neither, right? I don't want to be a fox or a hedgehog. I want to be a foxhog, right? Like I want to have range, but I also want to get good at something. I don't necessarily need to be like the end of the spectrum of all hedgehog or all fox. I want to be somebody that like is open to anything, learns a large spectrum, applies myself into many different areas, but also at the same time starts to eventually over time goes deep into a certain area. Not that's my only focus. Like, like I don't want to only focus in on business books or something like that, or only focus in on writing or whatever. This journey applies to a lot of my core values, right? It's not about the journey in particular. It's about expressing my core values every single day. Once this project, if you will, is over, I don't know where I'll go next, but I know I'll probably still be writing. I know I'll still be learning. I know I'll still be doing other things. So it'll probably manifest itself into completely something different someday. But at the end of the day, like I don't necessarily want to be a writing hedgehog. You know what I mean? Like that's not like what I'm trying to do in my life. I wouldn't even be writing this project if I was a hedgehog, because this is all about kind of being a little bit of a fox, but then hedgehogging into writing. Anyway, long story short, this is I want to be a foxhog, meaning like life for me is all about balance. I know you have a similar sentiment, but I'll let you kind of talk about your own philosophies there. And combining the best of both worlds, right? But also at the same time, having range, and meaningful work and meaningful relationships, right? Like you like to do, keep doing them until you don't want to, and then find another way to express it, but anyway, so that's the genesis of, or the gist of the, I want to be a foxhog reflection. So the question would be is, which do you want to be? Which I know your answer. Do you want to be a fox? Going to be a hedgehog, a foxhog, or something else? I'd love to get your thoughts.
Right. So my thought and my philosophy is that, in life, there is much more than just black and white, right? That's the reality, and that could be the beauty of it or the curse of it, depending on how you look at it.
Right.
So to me, my philosophy is be who you are. If you are a little bit of both, be a little bit of both. If you are more 80% hedgehog and 20% fox, then be that. If you do the opposite, then do that. Or you do something else, do that. For us, it's about finding our values, finding our mission, and live out what it is that makes us us. We are an assembly of a certain patterns of atoms and molecules, and that makes us a certain person, a beaver must dam, right?
Right.
Because you are built for that particular makeup. Right. You have certain needs and wants. All you have to do is fulfill those needs. That's it.
Right.
And be in the balanced state. So everything goes back to the concept of balance. What does balance means, right? Means that if I'm strong in something, then I need a little bit of the other.
Right.
But I'm weak in something and I need more of something else. That's gonna be the opposite. So balance means having the correct. It's not a 50-50. I mean, most people think of balance like a 50-50, right? But it's not, because balance means, like, let's say I am only 80% up to certain thing. I just need the other 20%. So it's 80-20 in that example. Right. And so the thing is, for me, when we debate whether you're a hedgehog or a foxhog, I think it doesn't have a lot of meaning. And who cares?
Yeah.
You'd have to be a fox or a hedgehog, and you could be either like a combination of both or neither.
Yeah, but I think we have a natural inclination to want an answer. Like, is it better to be a fox or is it better to be a hedgehog? And I know, and I think that
it's either.
I know, right? I think
it's both. Neither. That's the answer.
Right. We have such a desire and a need to know the answer, right? Like
that goes back to the fact that we don't know shit, right? Mm-hmm. And so the desire to know an answer is like we know of an answer, not necessarily correct answer.
Well, I'll tell you what happens when you hedgehog on something. Like once you become the best, eventually you're going to fall back down, and then you're going to go, well, how do I, like, what's next? Like, what is next? Like, if you spend your whole life hedgehogging and you've only lived and do one thing,
well, the thing is,
and that thing comes to an end, you're kind of screwed, you know what I mean? And then vice versa.
It's the same thing for the fox, though.
I know,
I'm just saying is when you are a fox, you want some of the hedgehog, and when you are a hedgehog, you want some of the fox. Right. That's just the way it is, because you yearn for the thing that you don't have. You yearn for the other complementary, whatever it is. So let's say you're a hedgehog, right? And yeah, you get to the point where you're the best, and the best, and then say, well, what else do I go from here?
Well, can a fox never be great? Can a fox never be great if you were only foxy?
I mean, you talking about great, depending on how you say great, because you are creating a constraint for yourself and saying a fox can only do, something, but a fox is really, really good at doing a lot of stuff. That's really great.
Good.
Like no, they're great at doing a lot of stuff. They're great at doing fox stuff. So it's like, okay, a fox is a hedgehog in a foxy way.
That's a good point.
So to me, so either you have the breadth or the depth, right?
Right.
But either way, you have the area of the breadth and area of the width basically the same. So both of them are the same. But if you can have a cross section of them, then you have a little bit of both. You have the best of both worlds. It's a balance. It's a balance.
Here's my theory, though, is if you do all the stuff that you like to do, over time you hedgehog naturally into. If you do all the foxy stuff that you like to do, and you like it, over time, that will eventually get you to hedgehog in a lot of those areas. On accident, not on purpose. Like,
right. I mean, you are creating a representations of a hedgehog. It only do one thing, right?
Right.
One thing. And a foxhog do a lot of things, but not great. And so what you're saying,
you could still be.
It's neither of this. I'm saying neither of this. Right. I want to be a foxhog. That means I'll be really good at many, many areas.
Well, actually, you know what? Doesn't balance by definition almost mean it means average, right?
That's what the word implies, but the thing is, it's the image and the meaning of what we mean by balance.
Isn't even like, but balance is sustainability. Like hedgehogging is not sustainable, and only foxing is not probably sustainable either. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, probably not. I mean, like it, eventually, like, I don't know. Yeah, I know that hedgehogging, eventually will not be sustainable.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that the debate among the hedgehog versus a fox, to me, is not in the real context of the real life, right? And so you can't say, okay, pretend you remove every other aspect and concept and just pretend that a fox is this, right? And a hedgehog is that. And so you say, well, a fox is not good at anything, but I'm saying the fox is really good at being foxy. So that basically ruins the whole foxes versus hedgehog. So that means that in my opinion, the case of fox versus hedgehog is irrelevant.
Fair enough. I mean, it's a fun thought exercise, and for me, I know what I want to be. Like I like you said, I want to do the things I like to do.
Right. So the thing is,
do as much as
back to what I was saying is,
like,
be who you are.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. If you're a beaver, be a beaver.
If you don't have to be a hedgehog. If you're a hedgehog, then be a hedgehog. You don't have to be a fox. You don't say, okay, I'm a hedgehog and I want to become a fox. To me, that's counterintuitive, because you have an advantage when you're a hedgehog, and then you say, oh, I'm going to give up my advantage to become something else. Even if you try your best, the hardest, you still be worse than average of a fox. Fox.
Can you imagine a fox waking up every morning and going, all right, I got to eat the frog. I got to go a hedgehog, yeah, or vice versa. Or can you imagine a beaver waking up in the morning and going, gotta eat that frog. Like, I gotta, I guess I'll go hunt that deer, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to, but like, gotta eat that frog. Like, I mean, they're like, no, I got some damming to do,
Right. Beaver is not gonna go, hey, I'm gonna go burrow into the dirt, right? They just don't do that. I mean, they're not made for it. So they're gonna be who they are. A fox gonna be a fox, a hedgehog's gonna be a hedgehog, a beaver's gonna be a beaver, a writer's gonna be a writer, a painter can be a painter. Chris gonna be Chris, True's gonna be True. That is the best. You should embrace that versus trying to say, well, you need to go become a fox or become a hedgehog or become a beaver. First,
that's fair. That is a very fair point. It's a fun conversation either way, but you know what? I'll change my sentiment on this book. I'll go ahead and say, read the book. Even if you're not into business, even if you're not into this, like, the idea of like trying to find these patterns and randomness and to come up with a storyline that makes sense, to share with the world. I think Jim did a great job writing a great book. He's a great guy. Actually, I remember after I finished my own book, I wrote him a note about, because the whole Stockdale paradox had a pretty big impact on me, and it had a big impact on what I wrote about in my book. Just knowing what it took to survive my own Stockdale, we'll call it the NICU paradox, I guess, if you will. But yeah, I mean, I will say this book holds some sentiment in my heart. I enjoyed it. I was entertained by it. I learned a lot from it. I think I'm past it now, but at the time when I was reading it, yeah, I'm cool with it. So Jim, great book. And I hope others get a chance to read this and enjoy it and make their own decisions on the value they found out of this or not.
So be your own unique twist, I would say, or look for it.
Right. Yep. I agree. Awesome. So the question we can leave you with is, what do you want to be? A fox, a hedgehog, foxhog, or something, or I guess Chris, True, or whoever you are listening to this, and your own unique twist here. So enjoy.
Because the thing is, to me, that is a formula from good to great. Is be who you are made to be. You're going to be great at it.
That would have been a great reflection. If you want yourself to go from good to great, like, figure out who you are and do that on purpose. Right?
But think about it. I mean, to be great, who you are, right? No one can beat him in being a fox. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. I mean, unless that snake woke up and ate the frog every single day, and then, that frog was trying to figure out how to be a fox. Like, people that are listening to this are probably going to be like, what the hell are they talking about? But anyway,
we were talking about the frog yesterday.
Yeah, I know.
So if you don't know what we're talking about,
go watch book 65. 65,
yeah.
Awesome, man. All right, well, we'll leave it at that. And thanks for joining us. And
we'll see you on the next episode. All right, take care.